Hey there, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Eric Estrevo. We have our Storm Ready Alert Day tonight into tomorrow, and I wanted to join you guys live on Facebook and YouTube to give you all the details on what is coming our way. Now, this is going to be a heavy snow event with also some rain mixing in at times around and potentially at times a little bit north of I-69. Mainly across Shiawassee, Genesee, and Lapeer counties is where we will have some of that rain mixing in, getting into the morning hours tomorrow. But our Storm Ready Alert Day, it is for everyone. Even if you are going to get those lower snowfall totals across the south, you'll still be impacted not only by the heavy nature of the snow, but it likely will start to get a little bit icy because of some of that rain falling on the snow, make things icy and slushy. And also our ground temperatures are very cold right now as we have gotten into this extended Arctic blast. This snow will overspread our area later this evening. So I would say as early as 10 p.m., the snow will start across our southwestern communities. The worst of the snow will be overnight into tomorrow morning, and then it'll start to get a little bit better into the afternoon before completely ending by the evening. Afternoon hours, there still will be some lingering snow across the south into the thumb, but the worst of the snow, the heaviest, where we'll see some snowfall rates of 1/2 of an inch to even 3/4 of an inch of snow per hour, will happen later on tonight into tomorrow morning. This is the system. It doesn't look all that impressive, but it is snowing pretty heavily in St. Paul, Minnesota. Same system that's going to come through us tonight into tomorrow is bringing that heavy snow towards St. Paul. Now, one thing that I want to do is I'm going to actually go through a few of these cameras. I'll take away that graphic, and I'll show you just how heavy some of the snow is falling across the Minneapolis area, where some of the heaviest snowfall on radar is right now. This is a look at the Minneapolis skyline, where you can see that heavier snowfall is bringing some lower visibility in spots. This is also a live look out there in Minneapolis downtown. You can barely see any of the buildings as that switches over. So a very heavy snowfall is on the way. Let me see if there's any other cameras that are showing up pretty significant snow. This is just to the south of Minneapolis. This is Eden Prairie in Minnesota, and this will switch over in a couple seconds. You can see just how low the visibility is on this camera. You can barely even pick out some of those car headlights with just how heavy that snow is falling right now. So across the Minneapolis area, that's the level and the type of snowfall that we will eventually see, not only tonight, but for the morning commute tomorrow. And that's why we're expecting some very hazardous travel for tomorrow morning and the potential of some school closures, not because of the amount of snow that we will have on the ground by tomorrow morning, but when it looks like this, and this is also near Eau Claire in Wisconsin, as this switches over, and we'll get into our forecast here momentarily, but I want to kind of give you the lay of the land of what the conditions will be with this system. This is Eau Claire in Wisconsin, just outside of Minneapolis, and they are seeing some of that heavier snowfall as well. So a very interesting look area-wide of what is going on just off to our west. Out ahead of that system, we're actually seeing some freezing drizzle, which is not great. It's kind of putting that glaze of ice underneath the snow. And then where we do get some rain later on tonight, it'll be more of that ice. So an icy, snowy mix for most of us, but a lot of the rain will be held down right around I-69. Those that are further to the north, it's a bit colder in the upper 20s. The rest of us are in the lower 30s. Small breeze coming out of the west and the southwest at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. That's bringing those wind chills down into the 20s. Wind chills will likely stay in the 20s for the entire overnight and also into the day on Wednesday before they fall down into the teens and single digits Wednesday night into Thursday morning, as we see another outbreak of Arctic air that's going to come behind this system. You can see it's a pretty expansive wave of snowfall stretching from the U.S.-Canadian border near the Dakotas and Minnesota all the way down to Chicago now. So it's a large, expansive area of snow, and it's already heavily snowing potentially down in southwestern lower Michigan, only a few hours time before that snow arrives here. And we'll time that out by 11 p.m. heavily snowing from Mount Pleasant towards Flint. It'll overspread the rest of the area by 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. You can see a lot of dark blue, and that's some of those 1/2 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch per hour snowfall rates that are quickly going to allow for an accumulation to occur. 7 a.m., you can see that that green is popping up across the south. And that's going to be that changeover to rainfall, if not a rain-snow mix that occurs across our southern communities. That's going to be Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer counties, and maybe a little bit that gets into Gratiot, Saginaw, maybe far southern Tuscola, and also Sanilac. But the majority of the rain will likely be held in check across Shiawassee and also Genesee and Lapeer. By lunchtime, that system will pull the colder air back in, change us all back over to snow, and for a few more hours in the afternoon, we'll deal with the snow. Ending during the evening, we'll still have a couple lingering lake effect snow showers, snow flurries in the thumb and across the north Wednesday night into Thursday morning. This is probably the most important graphic that I'll show you tonight into tomorrow. You can see the majority of us are going to have about 3 to 6 inches of new snow. The snow type is going to be that heavy, wet snowfall. Very hard to clear, especially if you have to shovel. And it also is going to make for travel to be a little bit worse because it's the slushy, heavy snowfall. It kind of feels like if you make a snowball, you can wring it out like a sponge because of all the heavy water content that is going to be in this snow. So very good packing snow. You'll be able to make a snowman, but it's harder to clear, harder to travel through. We'll have 2 to 4 inches of that snow and also some icy conditions due to the rain and also some of that freezing drizzle that's happening right now across the south. The majority of us are in the darker blue, so 3 to 6 inches are possible. And in both the light and the darker blue, there could be some locally higher amounts. You may have a couple spots that get a bit over 6 inches if we have a band of snow, heavy snow that sets up in the same region for several hours. And if we don't see that changeover to rain happening as quickly, or maybe it doesn't happen at all, you may see some higher snowfall totals in that lighter blue. But as of right now, our current expectations are what you see on screen. I see one of the questions, will the wind pick up? Nikita, the winds are definitely going to go up a bit tonight. We may have some gusts 15 to 20, which would lower the visibility in some of those heavier bands of snow. But the winds really won't be noticeable until we get behind this system. So with that last couple hours of snowfall, so from the late morning into the early afternoon, when we're all shifting back into snow and we're all continuing that snow into the early afternoon hours on Wednesday, winds are going to pick up some gusts 25 to 35 miles per hour. So in that snow, low visibility, some blowing and drifting snow, and also somewhat colder wind chills. But these winds are not going to be to the level that we would expect some power outages. However, if we get a band that sets up that puts 7 to 8 inches of snow on top of everything, because it is going to be that heavy packing snow, that heavy wet snow, so it's going to stick to everything. So if we have that band that sets up that gets us 6, 7, 8 inches of snow, and we add in these stronger winds later on in the day on Wednesday, there could be some isolated power outages, maybe even some tree damage in those heaviest hit spots. So the winds are definitely going to pick up Wednesday from the late morning into the afternoon. Some of those gusts up to 35 miles per hour is the expectation. And that's why when you combine everything that I just mentioned, we are going with an alert day tonight into tomorrow. It will stay breezy, partly sunny on Thursday. Check out the temperatures over the weekend. Highs in the teens, lows in the single digits. Another Arctic outbreak will be coming in for the weekend with some light snow flurries, light snow showers possible both Saturday and Sunday. Stephen, this is definitely an Alberta Clipper. It's a pretty strong one, so it's actually being pushed along but with some Pacific moisture. So that's what's giving it a little bit better of an opportunity to produce some of that heavier snowfall. Are there any school closures in Flint? Not that I know of just yet. I don't believe any schools have closed in anticipation of this storm. I would say a lot of these schools are going to wait until they see the conditions outside tomorrow morning to close school. Actually, I do have some school closures that I can mention. So Bad Axe Public Schools are closed tomorrow. Caseville Public Schools are closed tomorrow. Harbor Beach Community Schools are closed tomorrow. Laker Schools, including Cross Lutheran, closed tomorrow. North Huron schools are closed tomorrow. Owendale, Gagetown area schools are closed tomorrow. Saginaw Valley State University is opening at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, and Ubley Community Schools are closed tomorrow. So some school closures, but I think a lot of schools are going to wait until tomorrow morning until they officially pull the trigger on, closing school. Because I think a lot of these superintendents are going to want to see the conditions out there before they end up closing for Wednesday. And again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns about maybe how much snow you'll see in your community, feel free to leave it in the comments. And I will go back to our snowfall outlook map just so you have an idea of how much snow you are expected to see. And I'll continue to leave comments open for any questions on snowfall amounts and any other questions you may have regarding this winter storm. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up here momentarily unless I get a few more questions in the comments below. Stay safe. The worst of the snow will be tonight into tomorrow morning. Don't be surprised if you change over to a little bit of rainfall tomorrow morning across our southern communities. But also don't be surprised if you stay as all snow and you see about 3 to 6 inches of new fresh snowfall on top of what is already out there. Also in some of the darker blue communities, it's not likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple 7 or 8 inch totals, just if we see a band of heavy snow set up over the same areas and same spots. And also, if we don't have that change over to rain or it doesn't last all that long across the south, maybe even the track goes a little bit further south, maybe down into Metro Detroit as opposed to across I-69, and that changeover doesn't occur, don't be surprised if we have a couple spots that get over 4 inches in that later blue. But in general, we're expecting about 2 to 6 inches area wide of new snowfall from this system. Stay safe, drive carefully tomorrow morning, and also just know that if you have any kids that are in school, that they may have no school tomorrow because of this snow.